Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the regular board meeting for Wednesday, September 27th, 2023. Before we begin, I'd like to recognize with gratitude that this CVRD, just if we can get, I think there's headphones on over there. I can see the green light. It might be echoing maybe through, I'm not sure. I would like to recognize that the CVRD is, and we are today on the unceded territories of the Quetzal, Malahat, Sibaset, Halalt, Penelakut, Staminas, Liaxin, Paucachin, Didadat, and Pachidat nations, whose people have walked gently and stewarded these lands for thousands of years. And I know that we're also grateful to live, work, and contribute to this great region. And with that, we will get, Director McClinton, have you got a handle on it over there? And with that, I do want to recognize that there are a number of orange shirts both in the room and at home today, and other adornments that really show our appreciation and respect for the nations that we work with in our region. And I just want to recognize this is our last meeting before Truth and Reconciliation Day this Saturday. And I hope that we all take the time to reflect. If you're able to attend an event in your community, please do. It's an enlightening time and opportunity. I know that I'm so thankful to be alive in this time of reconciliation. And if we can take the time, if you're unable to attend an event, to learn more, take the time to do some learning and reflection on the day and how the work we do in reconciliation really improves the lives of everyone that we serve. And the more we work together, the more we're able to move forward in a good way. And it benefits all of us and really addresses the historical wrongs of our nation and our communities. And I know that I'm so grateful to participate in what is often very difficult work, but it's definitely very rewarding work. With that, we will get the meeting underway. Before we go to approval of the agenda, I'll turn it over and we'll hear the changes that are going to be made.
Thank you, Chair. So the motion would be to approve the agenda as amended to remove BEA2. It's a bylaw, which actually is going to be considered at the next board meeting. And correspondence C1 to be received for information as it was dealt with this morning at the Committee of the Whole. And there is a recommendation in the Committee of Whole recommendations from this morning. So without that, as amended.
And just one quick note, under report of the chair, I'll just open up the floor. If anyone has any reflections on UBCM, we'll try and make it quick because we do have a large group. And I'll just recount some of the meetings that we've had without too much detail in the open session today, but just reflect on the week that passed. And so with those changes, we'll ask for a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Moved by Director Abbott, seconded by Director Martman. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries.
We move to M1, regular board meeting of July 26, 2023, that the minutes of the regular board meeting of July 26, 2023 be adopted.
No errors or omissions. I'll ask for a motion to adopt those minutes. Moved by Director Morrison, seconded by Director Segal. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries.
M2, that the minutes of the regular board meeting of September 13th, 2023 be adopted.
Moved by Director Abbott, seconded by Director Segal. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you. There's no business arising from the minutes, so we move to the public input period. The public input period is to offer the public an opportunity to comment on the agenda items before the board considers them. The public input period procedure policy allows for an allotment of 15 minutes where the speaker is welcome to comment on any of the items on the agenda up to 3 minutes. This excludes items that may, are, or have been subject to a public hearing. The speaker should comment in a polite, calm, and courteous manner using respectful language, civility, and decorum.
Anyone for public input today? Ms. Bernard and Mr. Evans aren't here today, so we do wish them well if they're watching from home.
We have no delegations, and we now have a report from the chair.
Thank you very much. And just wanted to take a quick moment to reflect on the UBCM experience. If anybody wants, I'll kind of, look for hands and go to folks who might want to share their insights. We did have a number of meetings, actually the most meetings I've ever taken at a UBCM. The first 2.5 days was, it seemed like all meetings all the time. Thankfully, they were well spaced out, so we were able to repair. Well, we haven't fixed anything yet, but in terms of the meetings, we're fixing stuff all the time. But just want to run through them just so people are aware. We met with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs regarding a finance first, which was fiscal framework for local governments. Any of us who were at FCM, it was like the overriding topic. And for those of us in this room, UBCM has been advocating for better fiscal framework for local government for some time. And also the pointed discussion about MRDT revenues, how they could be used, not only for tourism promotion, but affordable housing, how we can look at the levels of funding, the taxation levels that are limited right now by the province and not determined by the local authorities, and also potentially looking at things like enforcement of short-term rental regulations and things being available opportunities to use that funding. So it was a good collaborative discussion. Obviously, like with many of these speed dating meetings, you don't know what you get out of it. But that's the meeting that we had first. The next one was Minister Kang, Minister of Municipal Affairs, and thankful to the colleagues that shared that room with us. Director Wilson is at home and Director Segal is here, talking about South Cowichan governance work, and also enhanced supports for reconciliation initiatives like upping and adding new funding opportunities to the community funding stream. Just on the South Cowichan thing, first time I've ever gone, can I say that? Because they might want to make it's not embargoed, so they didn't say it was embargoed. First time I've ever gone into a meeting and had your request granted in meeting. They were smiling while we were making our opening comments and then said, we're happy to tell you that you've got your funding. So that's the community issues discussion that will go forward in South Cowichan, looking at governance opportunities and alternatives for South Cowichan to better address some of the challenges with growth. And the other one was the enhanced supports for reconciliation. We know about the community funding stream through UBCM has been enhanced, so it's gone from $5,000 to $10,000 to host forums, and then also the discussion of maybe follow-on opportunities to continue to build those relationships and using them for things like capacity for both the nations and for the regional district to be able to facilitate those ongoing discussions as they become rightfully, as we know from the discussions around UNDRIP and DRIPA, the responsibility of local government flows as children of the province, so to speak. So our obligations under DRIPA and UNDRIP are alive, and just maybe looking at new funding opportunities to help facilitate that work at the local government and within First Nations governments. Following on that, we went through with Minister Ralston. Actually, at that time, he was on a panel, so it was his deputy minister that hosted the meeting, had a collaborative discussion around both Stocking Dam, which is of key importance to areas G, H in some sense, but maybe not so directly, but in the Diamond they get water through the town, and the town of Ladysmith around the replacement of that dam and potential funding opportunities to facilitate that work, and also private managed forest lands, which I'll let Mayor Douglas speak to if he wishes, around private managed forest land practices and how that impacts both drought and flooding and the health of our rivers and streams and watersheds more broadly within the region and across the province. And following that, we had a conversation with the, can I talk about that? Yeah, I would highlight it.
It's an announced working group, right?
Okay, so yeah, that was announced right after we had that meeting, basically. About the alternative route issue, people are well aware that the Cameron Lake route was shut down, protracted amounts of time this summer, really impacted the western communities, and the alternative route through the Lake Cowichan region was really the only lifeline that the communities had. So we had conversations with the ACRD chair, John Jack, and their CAO, along with Ms. Miles Wilson and myself, just about our support for that discussion. And then subsequently, there was a working group announcement made that discussion will be ongoing and supported with the province. And then finally, Chief Whitson and I, and along with our CAO, Danielle Miles Wilson, attended a meeting with Premier Eby regarding the Cowichan Weir. There was a second topic there about the Island Coastal Economic Trust recapitalization and transformation, but we essentially punted that item with respect to the importance of the meeting that we were having with the Premier and the attendance of Chief Whitson, and we really advocated strongly for provincial funding and support for governance options and liability discussions for the Couch and Weir replacement. As we know, there's pumps running right now, keeping the river on life support. The meeting was challenging in that we didn't feel that the appropriate briefings had been given to the Premier, but subsequently after that, both Chief Whitson and myself had follow-on conversations that were much more encouraging. If the Couch and Watershed Board meeting video is uploaded soon, I'll try and share that with board members in the community because that was detailed more there. All in all, really collaborative discussions, record attendance at UBCM. I think it was a really great conference. The only other thing I want to highlight, and this is more to community members who might tune in, and I know there might only be a couple dozen that watch these meetings, but please tell your friends. It's a difficult time in any level of government, the level of toxicity and rhetoric. I know that for myself, talking to colleagues from across the province, every time a re-election cycle comes up, both people who would be amazing in these roles won't run, and many people that have been amazing in these roles don't run again because the levels of toxicity, the attacks on local government officials and staff are really pushing really talented, caring, heart-focused, intelligent people out of these roles, and it hurts our communities. And I understand that people are passionate about issues and you may not always agree, but when you make people's lives miserable, their families' lives miserable, it goes beyond the level of civil discourse that we should expect from people. My response to that is to ignore it. I think some of us develop different skills to be able to manage the toxicity, but it can be, we all know the names, because after a while, you know the people that consistently attack you for no other reason that they've decided that you're their target. I think that speaks more to the character of the individuals that are always launching those attacks. But that being said, people need to recognize that when they pile on and continue to attack good people just because they have a disagreement on one topic, that it really hurts everyone in the region, and it's just going to continue to lower the quality of local government leadership and the people that will choose local government that are talented in staff from choosing that career path moving forward. So my only request is just think before you send. I know it's easy to be behind a keyboard and send off a nasty letter and take people's character and impugn their character, but if you can just leave it in drafts, have sober second thought, make it a constructive dialogue, and A, you'll get probably a lot more traction with your issue, and B, you'll make sure that good people continue to not only stay in those roles, but next time a seat becomes available, they can step up and run for those roles. So that's my little soapbox for today. I would invite any members of the board that want to share a quick reflection on UBCM to do so. I think it was a really good conference, and I'm sorry that a lot of people did get sick out of it. You can't bring over 2,000 people together in small rooms and not expect that to happen in the COVID era, but we all know the risks going in, and I was glad to take that risk to represent our region and my community. And I think we all did really good work there, and I'm proud of not only our experienced group here, but also the new board members who I saw really engaged and sort of really working hard that week for the people that we all serve. So I want to just raise my hands and say thank you to everyone here. Ian? Or sorry, Director Morrison.
Thanks, Chair. I want to echo a lot of what Aaron said. That was a pretty great conference. I'd have to say that, it's been a tough year in the province, given, wildfires and all that, and really good attendance at the event. And, I think there was a pretty good lineup from the cabinet panels and the likes. I want to, tackle specifically the electoral area forum. Who would have thought back in May when we were organizing the topics for it that wildfire would still be a major issue? And there was some interesting material brought forward in that. I thought that the attendance was great. The conference was well run, and it was the first time for many of you. So you got to see a pretty good one right out of the gate. So that's interesting. Another thing I want to make note of is that, UBCM it represents the whole province. And if you get out and talk to people from all the different regions in the province, you'll find that we have a heck of a lot more in common than we do as being different. And I think past President Ford's comments about when you're new, go and meet 5 people from other areas that get their names and get their contacts and develop relationships with them, because that can be really important in helping you to work through some of the things that you may be working through in your region. So that was a really good one. But I want to end with a couple of things. It was a really good conference. I just loved the time that I spent through AVICC working on that executive and serving as the EA rep. I note that in looking at the new executive, that the North and the Interior did a really good job of populating the executive with folks from their region, and that's the way those work. So, as I said, I loved the time that I spent there serving electoral areas, and it was fantastic. But I also want to put in a plug for those of you that haven't filled out the survey that UBCM has sent out. They organized that conference on the basis a lot of what we have to say about what was the last one. So if you should have all received the email requesting you fill out the survey. If you haven't, please do it. And I'm really encouraged by the new executive, and they've got a lot to do serving all of us. And I think it's important that we start thinking now about what are some of the topics that we'd like to see from our regional district and from this region be part of next year's convention, because they're going to start working on it pretty soon. So with that, I had a great time. It was a fantastic event, and it took me 2 days to recover because I was just exhausted when I got home, but I didn't get COVID, so that was a good one. Thanks.
Thank you, and congratulations to everyone in this room who did not get COVID. And not saying that everybody at home has COVID. I'm just saying it's clear that it's gone around the province. So I've tested 3 times lucky. I'm hoping my streak stays alive. Director Douglas.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could just give a brief summary of some of the meetings that North Cowichan had with the provincial cabinet ministers that may be of interest to the board. One thing we did this year, and we've done this in previous years as well, is try to coordinate some of these meetings with the regional district and also with the city of Duncan, recognizing that we have many common interests and common positions. One of our meetings was, as you noted, Mr. Chair, with the Minister of Forests, Bruce Ralston. So the topic of discussion was the flooding in the Chemainus River. And the approach we took with that meeting, which yourself, Mr. Chair, you attended with us and spoke to the topic, was really highlighting some of the issues that the Halalt Nation had brought attention to in a recent meeting with the Minister of Emergency Management and Climate Change Readiness. So there were several flood mitigation works that the Halalt Nation had been advocating to the province to follow through on, and we made an effort to really highlight that with the minister, and I was in communication with Chief Thomas from the Halalt in the lead up to that meeting and briefed him afterwards. And one of the approaches we took on that meeting and in many of the other meetings was getting that commitment for a follow-up meeting with the minister. So it's the 50-minute speed dating, but if you can get a commitment for a half hour, an hour meeting afterwards, kind of a good way to end the meeting, and Minister Ralston was receptive to that. We also met with the Minister of Mental Health and Addiction. So one of our positions we've taken at North Cowichan is advocating for more treatment and recovery facilities to respond to the drug crisis. And so we stressed to the minister the need for these sort of facilities here in the Cowichan region. We do have some already, but what we really need is publicly funded facilities that anyone can access. And there's definitely a long wait list for that for many individuals and their families looking for help. We also met with with that meeting as well, we did jointly with the City of Duncan, because it's a common topic that we're both very interested in. We also met with the Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture, and we covered a variety of topics there, but we've got several waterfront improvement projects planned in North Cowichan, including in Maple Bay, Crofton, Chemainus. Also clean up with some of the water quality issues with Quamachin Lakes. We stress that to the ministry. They don't really have any money for us right now, but we're definitely on their radar, and they were eager to stay in contact with our municipality in case any funding opportunities come up. Finally, we did meet with the Premier as well, and that was also jointly with the City of Duncan. So we stressed the growing challenges we're facing around homelessness and street disorder and the drug crisis, and just made sure that that's on the Premier's radar. Obviously, we're not, downtown east side or Victoria and Nanaimo here, but we do have some major challenges that are affecting the whole region. But obviously, parts of North Cowichan and the City of Duncan are feeling it more than many other parts of the community. We also did mention to the Premier some of our recent discussions around regional planning, and just highlighted to the Premier that if the province does impose housing targets on the municipalities, that is going to create some challenges without that region-wide planning. So there was definitely interest from the Premier, and the Deputy Minister for Municipal Affairs was there, and there was interest in potentially providing us with funding and staff support if this is a route that the board wishes to pursue. I'd also note as well, and perhaps Michelle Staples wants to touch on this, but the City of Duncan did have several meetings with Minister of Housing, Attorney General, Public Safety, and Solicitor General. So we were invited to those meetings and attended jointly with City of Duncan to reiterate that our two municipalities were working together and had held common positions on a number of these issues.
And that concludes your report.
That concludes my report.
Thank you, Director Douglas. I don't have anyone else on my speakers list right now. That's what happens when the three people that say they're going to be brief aren't so brief. Director Deck.
Well, that was my first UBCM conference, and I really appreciated the fact that the topics that were raised were universal, that we cared about the same things. And, listening to people in the big groups and also the breakout groups, bringing up the same, not the same ideas, sometimes diverse ideas and solutions and roadblocks, and just getting a chance to hear from other people that have been around longer than I have. So it was a great opportunity to get some background information. I really appreciated that. So I'm looking forward to the next one.
Thank you. Anyone else before we move on? Director Nicholson.
Well, is Mayor Staples there? I'd be curious to hear how Duncan did.
She just popped on. Director Staples, sorry, people are asking if you want to give us your
That's
insights.
okay. I was just trying to get up the file because I'm missing one of the meeting topics. So hopefully, but I'm just having a lot of computer issues today. So, yeah. So Mayor Douglas did mention some of the meetings that we were jointly attended. I mean, overall, it was an excellent UBCM, I thought. I found it very, very busy. The same thing that that the chair spoke to in terms of how challenging it was. Like this year just seemed just exceptionally busy for some reason, and I'm not sure why. But excuse me, it was over the top. I didn't get COVID, thankfully, but I did have a massive allergic reaction from something at the end of the conference, and so my eyes are now open today, so I can actually see properly, which is great. But it's been a few days, so I'm staying away from all of you because I don't want to, just stay in my own little bubble right here. But we met with the Public Safety and Solicitor General to talk about improving supports of people who've been released from incarceration. So, our discussion was really about how the challenges upon people's release around accommodation, around financial management, around just accessing support services and different needs. Dental care came up as part of the conversation as well as something that's missing, because it's just something that we often see and hear about. That leads to some of the, the turnover in people who are street entrenched. And so looking at how can they do that within that system to really work and do things differently with people when they're actually inside of institutions where they should be getting help, different forms of help, to be more prepared for when they do get released. So we talked about that. We also spoke about the village and the funding for the sleeping pods as part of for the province to adopt it as part of the provincial housing plan. So that was a ministers' meeting, but that also came up as a resolution that went to the UVCM floor and was supported overwhelmingly by the people that were present to vote on it from other jurisdictions and municipalities across BC, who were the majority dealing with the same types of issues that we are in our communities around street entrenchment, opioid use, mental health and addictions, and how we're really seeing successes in this model and trying to encourage the province to support these as a way of dealing with like the acute homelessness that we have as a form of stabilization for people so that they can have some time. Essentially, we're not going to create this or solve this problem overnight with building our way out of it. We need to have some sort of a buffer between what's happening now and what we actually need to build for the future. Director Douglas spoke about it in terms of some of the needs around treatment and detox beds, but also ongoing housing once people are through that, and people can't even get into programs because there just aren't any. There are some, but there's just not enough. And that we have found, and by we I mean all the groups that support the village, have found a lot of success there for people in stabilizing also their use and in accessing health services and employment opportunities, other forms of housing. And so a lot of our conversations focused around talking to all sorts of ministers and people about that, and the premier, and hopefully we have some traction moving forward. There's a lot of other jurisdictions who are interested in replicating what we're doing here, and so we're hoping to become with Victoria and Port Alberni, to look at kind of all the successes we're having and how we can build and strengthen and off of that and share those as a way to bridge what's required right now. And in addition to that, we talked about creating regional action plans to address homelessness and mental health and addiction issues, because as regions, so for us, obviously it would be the Cowichan Valley region. As you know, that the people who are unhoused, primarily, as Director Douglas said, in the core Cowichan tribes, North Cowichan and the city of Duncan core area, a bit of Director Nicholson's area as well, is that they come from all over the region, the people. They're not from necessarily Duncan or North Cowichan or Cowichan tribes. They're from Lake Cowichan, they're from Shawnigan, they're from Mill Bay, they're from Cowichan Bay, they're from all over the region. So with that as well, that as regional areas, if we can plan, we know how many people we have who are unhoused. If we can actually develop plans, which we've done as a region before, and we're just about to embark on another one, what the needs are of the people who are unhoused in our communities, then we can come together with a voice to advocate for the needs of our communities. And if we did that across the province, because we have regional districts, then perhaps there would be sort of less, there could be a more focused approach on how we plan our way forward. And I am missing one of our meetings, and it's not jumping out in my mind at this point in time.
Attorney General?
Yes, it was the Attorney General. Look at you go.
Because our
Prolific
CAO
offenders.
has your briefing
That's
notes.
right. I've got it right here. Prolific offenders. As soon as you said that, it popped up. Sentencing around prolific offenders, and how do we deal with those? Not in the way that they're being dealt with right now in other levels in the federal government in terms of violent offenders. These are more kind of the day-to-day, people shoplifting, sort of the more petty crime, I guess, focus that we're trying to work on with the province on how do we deal with that, because right now it's just not being dealt with effectively. And other than that, it was a good conference, and I feel like a lot of other communities are saying the same things, and I really have faith that, and I will hold on to that we have been heard, and that we will find ways to partner effectively with the province and work together on to meet the needs of our community and what we're requesting, not to have the province tell us what we need to do and how they'd like to do it. So, yeah, we learned that during the pandemic. We learned that it works to work together, and that's kind of the expectation moving forward. So I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Staples, and I appreciate all of the reflections and recounting of the work. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on it before we move on? Oh, Director Toporowski. Sorry, I missed your hand there. I said I'd focus on the screen and then I wasn't.
No worries. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I, heard it was record attendance, over 2,000 delegates that registered for this event, UBCM. The part that I wanted to focus on was the shared path of reconciliation and the words of Grand Chief Stuart Phillip talking about when he had attended meetings or events like this, going to speak in front of people, he was really happy to see his relatives in the audience and seeing so many. It almost brought tears to my eyes because usually he's the only one in the room from a long time ago. So it's changing, that more First Nations representation at the table in these places. And also we heard from the lady that's working at the BC government who's pushing forward the UNDRIP, or is in charge of organizing all of that and having that brought forward for support for local governments. Also wanted to touch on the canoe trip. I was hoping that they would have 2 of those because it did book up really fast. And, I think, I was on the canoe with Kate Segal, and she took care of me. We took care of each other anyways. But it was a really good conference. And like I said, just seeing the representation of Aboriginal voices at the table and how that's going to be rolled out was spoken about, and it's very exciting and good times to be here, as Aaron said.
Great, thank you very much. Anyone else before we move on? Okay, seeing none, we will continue on our agenda.
Thank you, Chair. C1, as amended in the agenda, terms of reference, Vancouver Island Coastal Communities Committee, VICC Solid Waste Circular Economy. This would be for information as it was dealt with at Committee of the Whole this morning. And C2, the
Sorry, Director Nicholson?
Oh, sorry.
It does come up under the committee recommendations,
So
but,
would you like the motion then or no?
well, you can make a motion anytime you like, but we were going to deal with it under the committee
Okay.
recommendations.
C2, correspondence from the municipality of North Cowichan regarding request from CVRD Board to consider regional planning service.
Thank you. Director Douglas, appreciate that letter. And that was there for information, so I think we can continue on for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We have no, item 8, information. We have none. 9, committee commission reports. Report and recommendations from the Committee of the Whole meeting of September 13th, 2023. Director Morrison.
Director Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think these were all published
Yeah.
in advance and would move all of the items in, what's CR1?
Yeah, what is that? So those have all been moved. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Director Segal. Any discussion, any items that are to be pulled at this time? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
CR2, I will read these because they are new to the agenda from this morning. It's recommended from this morning's meeting, R1, that the 2023 CVRD Regional Active Transportation Plan be approved. R2, 1, that the 2023 budget for Function 498 be amended And approve to A, decrease the Housing Trust Fund by $33,000, and B, increase grant to organization by $33,000. 2, that the Cowichan Housing Association's request to disperse $33,000 to the Duncan Housing Society from the Housing Trust Fund for Phase 2 of the Duncan Manor project be approved. 3, that the following 3 recreation facility capital projects and their corresponding 2024 budgets be approved prior to the 2024 budget adoption. 1, Cowichan Lake Sports Arena condenser replacement for $200,000. 2, the Cary Park Recreation Center arena condenser and chiller replacements for $650,000. And 3, Cowichan Community Center Phase 2 roof replacement for $2.8 million. 4, that the 2023 budget for function F426 Cowichan Performing Arts Center be amended in order to complete construction of the approved theater renovation project by 1, increasing capital expenses by $95,000, and 2, increasing the transfer from operating reserve by $95,000. R5, 1, the terms of reference for the Vancouver Island Coastal Communities Committee on Solid Waste and Circular Economy, and I won't read out the acronym, be approved. 2, that Director Morrison be the elected representative and 1 alternate from the board be appointed to the same acronym. And 3, that budgetary expenses for the Cowichan Valley Regional District's participation in the same acronym be funded by budget function 520 Solid Waste Management Complex. I move
So-
those.
Before we move those items, I think we're going to pull number 5 because we have to add the alternate's name. And I think that's the one that you want to, you want to speak to R1? Pull R1, okay.
Okay, so let's move R2 and
R2 through R4.
3 and 4, yeah.
Yeah. So those have been moved by Director Morrison, seconded by Director Segal. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? We'll go to R1.
Move it.
And do we have a seconder? And then I'll go to Director Nicholson, seconded by Director Segal. Director Nicholson.
Oh, thank you. I am opposed to approving the Regional Active Transportation Plan at this time because I do not think it adequately addresses community connection needs, and the rating scheme I feel is not, it does a disservice to electoral areas. So I'll be voting against this.
Thank you. I just want to reflect on what Mr. Farquhar said this morning, that there are local parks and trails plans that reflect on the local needs, as well as those should be strengthened and reflected in the local area planning process. So I appreciate that perspective, but I thought that was adequately addressed by staff and in conversations between meetings that seem to be reiterated, that those appropriately live in the local plans for the parks and trails planning and then the local area planning processes. But I appreciate if you have that perspective, that it's your right to vote against the regional active transportation plan, which is meant to be that high-level regional network of trailways and active transportation work. And Director Segal.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be supporting this, but I think maybe what Director Nicholson is getting at is something I observed since I started. I looked at our active transport plan, which was a 10-year plan for Area A, and it's a wonderful plan, and not a lot has been executed on it, and we're at the end of the 10 years. So I can understand the frustration of being an electoral area and just witnessing that. And it was just my first year, so maybe I'll get a lot done in 4 years, but I'm happy to move forward the regional high-level plan.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor and opposed? Director Nicholson and Deck opposed. And Wilson opposed. Motion carries. Okay, so we'll move to R5, which was the terms of reference. So I did see Director McClinton volunteer to be the alternate. I didn't have anyone, and I'm sorry I was running around at lunch, but I did stick around for a little bit. Nobody came in and volunteered to be the alternate.
So move R5 with Director McClinton
As
added
the
as the
alternate.
alternate.
For the VIX Sorry. Sorry, I really could have come up with a better acronym, a different name for a better acronym, but sorry, I really worked on that pronunciation over lunch. Okay, with that change to the recommendation, it's been moved. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Director Abbott. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. We did have a conversation about, the solid zero waste reference in the terms of reference, but Director Nicholson, you brought up a point during the meeting. Did you want to resolve that we write a letter to make that suggestion?
I do, and I sent a motion to you and the corporate secretary.
Sorry, I did not see it. Just give me one sec. Oh, sorry, it was just before the meeting. My apologies. CVRD write a letter to Committee on Solid Waste and Circular Economy requesting that terms of reference be revised to include a purpose statement related to achieving island-wide zero waste solutions by,
I was hoping you could suggest a appropriate target, because if you don't have a target, things just go on and on.
well, it's 2023. Yeah, I'm,
Solid waste management plan would be the timeline that we
yeah, and that's 2030, isn't it?
think so, yeah.
Wish we had some good background music we could put on for a moment. We'll pause that for a sec, but go ahead, Director Morrison.
I think the wording shouldn't be island-wide, but area of jurisdiction-wide.
Okay.
Because it's coastal communities.
Right,
and-
too, yeah. So let's just say, to say, CVRD write a letter to the Committee on Solid Waste and Circular Economy requesting that terms of reference be revised to include a purpose statement related to achieving Vancouver Island and coastal community zero waste solutions by,
30 years, next 20 to 30 years.
yeah, so that's, yeah, it's not specific enough. Could we say achieving island-wide zero waste solutions? I get what your point is, the date. Well, I'm gonna open it up to the mover of the motion to put a date on it. 2030?
2030 works for me.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Okay, seconded by Director Deck. Discussion. Do you want me to read it back? Okay. We're all clear on what we're voting on? So it's just a letter to the committee advising or requesting terms of reference be revised to put the date of 2030 on there. Excuse me? Yeah, 2030 would be inclusive of 2030. Let's not get into semantics, Director Manhas. You're out of order. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Moving on, thank you, Director Morrison, for your reports.
Director reports taken care of. Number 11, staff reports. Report from the Planning Strategic Initiatives Division, CVRD bylaw number 4424, Development Permit Area Amendment bylaw 2023. That CVRD bylaw number 4424, Development Permit Area Amendment bylaw 2023, be amended as outlined in the staff report to the board at their September 27th, 2023 meeting prior to the second reading. I believe that's attached in the bylaws.
That was regarding the ALC recommended changes. Yes.
SR2, a report from legislative.
Well, we haven't moved or seconded the recommendation.
Sorry.
So,
Trying to
do
move
we have a
along.
mover and a seconder, hopefully? And if there's discussion, I'm happy to entertain it. Moved by Director Martman, seconded by Director Morrison. Discussion, Director Martman.
Thank you. And I just want to give a shout out to staff on this because this is an example that I think was spoken about yesterday at the farmers meeting, or in a meeting with farmers. I'm not sure which way it goes. Because this is about having, avoiding duplication between what's in the ALC regulations and the code of practice for farming and what might be in local government. And so I just appreciate staff taking the time to check it back with the ALC. And I just want to note that in the staff report, it does talk about that the board doesn't have to necessarily follow the recommendations of the ALC. But when we don't follow the recommendation, then I really think we have to have really solid arguments about why we would not. Because what are we adding to the burden or the barriers to farming? So again, a shout out and thank you to staff.
Great, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
Moving on, RS2, report from the Legislative Services Division regarding amendment bylaws, the method of cost recovery. So it was a number of sewer systems a couple of years ago were adopted with not the full indication of method of cost recovery. The ministry did contact us and noted that all outlined A through E in the local government should be in our service establishment bylaws. Therefore, on the bylaws section, it's asked, we have the 6 bylaws moving first, second, and third reading. As well, there will be a number of other bylaws coming forward for board's consideration in the next few board meetings.
Thank you. So you see the recommendation there that's been moved by Director Morrison, seconded by Director McClinton. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. Moving to PH1, public hearing report regarding CVRD bylaw 4424, development permit area amendment bylaw 2023, that the public hearing report regarding CVRD bylaw number 4424, development permit area amendment bylaw 2023 be received.
Moved by Director Nicholson, seconded by Director Martman. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
PH2, public hearing report regarding CVRD bylaw number 4484, official community plan amendment bylaw 2023, that the public hearing report regarding CVRD bylaw number 4484, official community plan amendment bylaw 2023 be received.
Moved by Director Martman, seconded by Director Deck. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
PH3, public hearing report, CVRD bylaw 4485, zoning bylaw for the electoral areas, development permit exemptions and guidelines 2023, that the public hearing report regarding CVRD bylaw number 4485, zoning bylaw for electoral areas, development permit exemptions and guidelines 2023 be received.
Moved by Director Nicholson, seconded by Director Segal. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor and opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Moving to bylaws B1, that the CVRD bylaw 4517, dog regulation and impounding annual fees amendment bylaw 2023 be granted first, second, and third readings.
Moved by Director Acton, seconded by Director Morrison. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor and opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
That the CVRD bylaw 4517, dog regulation and impounding annual fees amendment bylaw be adopted.
Moved by Director Nicholson, seconded by Director Abbott. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
B2, that CVRD bylaw 4520, Maple Hill Sewer System Service Amendment Method of Cost Recovery bylaw 2023 be granted first, second, and third readings.
Moved by Director Nicholson, seconded by Director, I was going to say McClinton, but I think he was just fixing his hair, Director Wilson. Look good, Jess, you look good. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. It wouldn't be one of our board meetings if the chair didn't knock the meeting off its rails. Moving on.
B3, that CVRD bylaw 4521, Shawnigan Beach Estate Sewer System Service Amendment Method of Cost Recovery bylaw 2023 be granted first, second, and third reading.
Moved by Director McClinton, seconded by Director Nicholson. I feel like I'm having to beg for motions today. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Director Manhas always wants to get out of here. I'm surprised he's not on top of it, but.
B4, that CVRD bylaw 4522, Kerry Park Village Sewer System Service Amendment Sewer System Service Amendment Method of Cost Recovery Bylaw 2023 be granted first, second, and third reading.
Moved by Director Segal, seconded by Director Abbott. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
B5, that CVRD Bylaw 4523, UBO Sewer System Service Amendment Method of Cost Recovery Bylaw 2023 be granted first, second, and third reading.
Moved by Director Deck, seconded by Director Nicholson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
That CVRD Bylaw 4524, Bald Mountain Sewer System Service Amendment Method of Cost Recovery Bylaw 2023 be granted first, second, and third reading.
Moved by Director Deck, seconded by Director Nicholson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
One more. B7, that CVRD Bylaw 4525, Brulette Place Sewer System Service Amendment Method of Cost Recovery Bylaw 2023 be granted first, second, and third reading.
Moved by Director Segal, seconded by Director Nicholson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
Moving on to BEA1, that CVRD Bylaw 4424, Development Permit Area Amendment Bylaw 2023 be granted second reading.
For electoral area directors only, I'm looking for a mover. Moved by Director Abbott, seconded by Director Morrison. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
BEA2 was removed at the beginning of the meeting. BEA3, that CVRD Bylaw 4484, Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw 2023 be granted second reading.
Moved by Director Nicholson, seconded by Director McClinton. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
BEA4, that CVRD Bylaw 4485, Zoning Bylaw for the Electoral Areas, Development Permit Exemptions and Guidelines 2023 be granted second reading.
Moved by Director Nicholson, seconded by Director McClinton. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
That CVRD Bylaw 4508, South Cowichan Zoning Amendment Bylaw 1146, Fisher Road 2023 be granted third reading.
Moved by Director Wilson, seconded by Director Abbott. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
That CVRD Bylaw 4508, South Cowichan Zoning Amendment Bylaw 1146, Fisher Road 2023 be adopted.
Moved by Director Wilson, seconded by Director Nicholson. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
BEA6, that CVRD Bylaw 4518, Sentinel Ridge Sewer System Service Amendment Boundary Bylaw 2023 be granted first, second, and third reading.
Moved by Director Segal, seconded by Director Wilson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. That gets us through the bulk of our regular agenda. I don't think we have any additional items, and so that opens us up for question period.
Do you have a question?
Seeing no one in the gallery coming to the lectern, the podium, the microphone, I'll ask for a motion to go into closed session under sections 90, I can't read without my glasses.
Section, that the meeting be closed under section, Community Charter, Part 4, Division 3, Section 90, subsections as noted, so it'd be closed minutes, as well as not Section 92B, the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between the municipality and a provincial government or the federal government or both, or between the provincial government or the federal government or both and a third party. Personal information, that'd be Section 91A. Appointments, Section 91A, and further appointments, Section 91A.
Moved by Director Segal, seconded by Director Toporowski. All those in favor? Any